There is a new case out there right now in the headlines that seems to just kind of be sweeping all of the media circuits, and it's being referred to as the Microsoft murder. Now, this case has everything. It's got money, power, jealousy, a little bit of everything. So we are going to jump right into all of the details and go over everything we know so far. Hey guys, my name is Elise. This is 10 to Life. Let's dive right in. Jared Bridegan was from Jacksonville, Florida. He was a father, husband, and from what I've read, he was a very respectable, genuinely kind guy. He had been married once before and had 2 twins, a boy and a girl, with his ex-wife, Shanna. After his divorce in 2015, he met a woman named Kirsten. They were both working at Microsoft at the time. They got married in 2017, and shortly after, they settled in St. Augustine, Florida. Not long after, they welcomed their first daughter and then quickly welcomed a second daughter. Kirsten ended up leaving her job to be a stay-at-home mom, but Jared continued his career at Microsoft. He provided a very nice life for his family as well, and by all accounts, not only was Jared a very nice guy, but he was a family man. He was a hands-on father and spent a lot of time with his blended family, and Kirsten and Jared seemed to have a great relationship. Kirsten had said, Jared is the type of guy where the minute you met him, you just fell in love with the kind of guy that he is. He honestly is the best dad. Whenever I needed a break, he will scoop up the kids, take them outside, and give me a minute to catch my breath. However, not everything was perfect. Even though Jared got a divorce back in 2015 and custody with his twins was set in stone, there were still court filings constantly coming in from his ex-wife. Many people around him said that it was difficult to watch Jared go through this and go through the constant court battles when all he wanted to do was focus on being the best husband and father that he could be. Then on the evening of February 16th, 2022, the unexpected happened.
Police investigating a deadly shooting tonight. This is a live look at the scene. Police still out there right now.
The shooting happened in the Sanctuary neighborhood, which is right off Butler Boulevard. News4Jax reporter Ann Maxwell joins us live. At least a dozen police cars were at the scene earlier. How is it looking now, Ann?
Well, Stacey, we're at the intersection of Sanctuary Boulevard and Jacksonville Drive. Still an active police presence here. That section of Sanctuary Boulevard totally blocked off. A neighbor tells me he heard 3 gunshots. He says it was 1 gunshot followed by a pause and then 2 more. He says this area is wooded. There aren't any houses on that street right there. He says it goes right on to JTB. So if anything like this happened, it'd be really easy for somebody to just get off right there.
Jared had just dropped off his 10-year-old twin son and daughter to his ex-wife's home in Jacksonville Beach and was headed back home. With his 2-year-old daughter Bexley in the car, Jared stopped because of a tire on the road near the exit of the Sanctuary neighborhood where Shanna lived. Jared was shot multiple times as he attempted to move that tire out of the road. His vehicle hazards lights were still blinking with his young daughter sitting in her car seat unharmed. Bexley remained in the car for 3 minutes near her dad's lifeless body before a passerby finally stumbled on the gruesome crime scene, pulled her from the car, and called 911. Police believed that this was a planned and targeted ambush and murder because that tire was placed in the road that Jared regularly traveled to drop off and pick up his twins, and because he was specifically shot when he was stopped to get that tire out of the road, they believed that this was planned. Jared was only 33 years old when he was brutally murdered. Police asked the public if they knew anything, or if anybody was in the area and maybe saw something, and told them to contact the police. Unfortunately, nothing came up. Everyone that knew Jared, though, was of course completely shocked by all of this. Jared didn't have any enemies. He wasn't involved in anything shady, no drug involvement, nothing at all. Nothing at all that they could come up with as to why somebody would do this. They wondered if maybe the tire setup was for somebody else, and maybe Jared just happened to drive by up to that tire in the road first, but the whole thing just didn't make sense. Since Jared got out of his car, it would have been obvious that it was him, so if he weren't the target, why would he have been shot? Police didn't have any leads for weeks, despite multiple statements begging the public to come forward. Given the circumstances of Jared's tragic death and this targeted ambush happening near his ex-wife's home on the road that he always took to leave, people started to wonder about who Shanna was and could she be involved. Well, Shanna got remarried in 2018 to Mario Fernandez. At the time, she was running a baking company called Beach Baked 904 and lived in a home near Jacksonville Beach.
And we are around town today with Shanna Gardner Fernandez from Beach Baked 904. Hey, Shanna.
Hey, Jean.
Shanna never spoke out after Jared's death or made a public plea for someone to come forward. Even on behalf of her children, she remained quiet. Shanna wasn't invited to Jared's funeral, but what struck Jared's family and friends as odd was that she didn't let her two twins go to the funeral either. Since their divorce back in 2015, Shanna and Jared both were remarried and appeared to have moved on. Sometimes ex-spouses in these situations never say anything at all, and nobody ever thinks much of it. However, in this case, without any answers as to who was responsible for Jared's death, people with immediate knowledge about Shanna and Jared's marriage started talking. Now, ultimately, this led to almost instantaneous scrutiny for Shanna after details of their vicious divorce became community gossip, along with her behavior following Jared's murder. So, was that speculation justified? I'm not really sure. Just because somebody doesn't speak out or make a public plea doesn't necessarily mean much, because people all grieve in different ways, and certainly it doesn't mean that they're murderers. And sometimes it actually makes a person a target if they don't appear in a way that the public thinks they should, so a lot of people just prefer to stay quiet. We never know why people do things or don't do things in these situations. It's always circumstantial and depends so much on dynamics, situation, and just a lot of information that the public doesn't always know. Now remember this part, because it will be explained later why she didn't say anything. But at this time, the public didn't know any of that. But I want to just kind of also point out, not even letting your children go to their dad's funeral. That seems to me like a pretty spiteful thing to do. Almost like a final dagger to Jared, even though now with him gone, their entire court battle was now over. I don't know. So did she not let her children attend because she wasn't invited, or was it for something more? What do you guys think, and let me know your thoughts below. Would you let your children attend an ex-spouse's funeral even if you weren't getting along with the ex? Or in general, if you weren't invited? Kirsten, Jared's widow, posted this on Instagram with the caption, "Jared Bridegan's ex-wife Shanna Gardner Fernandez emailed me merely 12 days after Jared's horrific murder asking for a copy of the death certificate. His body had to stay at the medical examiner's office for over a week and a half. I didn't even have copies of the certificate yet. I was planning his funeral. This was cruel." Kirsten was understandably upset, since I'm sure emotions were running high during the aftermath of Jared's death. I can't even imagine what she must have been feeling, especially since so far, almost a month after the incident, there were still no answers and the police were completely silent. But that would soon change when just a few weeks later, police released surveillance video of a vehicle that they believed could be involved in Jared's death. They said that on February 16th, between 5:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m., a truck was seen circling in the nearby surveillance video of the crime scene. The police said that the truck is dark-colored, likely blue, and a 2004 to 2008 Ford F-150 four-door with running boards that are possibly silver. It had brown trim and a silver toolbox. Now, that's a solid lead. But was this truck connected? Nobody that knew Jared recognized this truck at all, yet the police still believed that this was targeted. At this point, there was a $55,000 reward for anyone with information on Jared's murder. Around this same time, Kirsten also came forward in a statement to the public pleading for answers as detectives were on the hunt for who viciously murdered her husband. She hoped that by making a statement, it would convince someone to come forward. She said, "Even if you don't care about our family, someone is out there that did this. They didn't care that there was a child in the car. They didn't care that he was a great guy. They just shot him. Everyone should care about that. At this point, a lot of people were still talking about Jared's ex-wife. So let's get into all of that and what all of the fuss was about. So why was Shanna getting so much heat? To paint the full picture, we have to go back to the very beginning. Shanna Gardner Fernandez grew up in a Mormon community in upscale Alpine, Utah. Her parents, Sterling and Shelley Gardner, co-founded the company Stampin' Up, which sells paper craft products. Stampin' Up is based out of Salt Lake City and has an estimated revenue of about $100 million a year. No big deal, right? Just some pocket change. I mean, we are talking mega money. Shanna met Jared while visiting a friend in Florida in 2009. Jared was also a devout Mormon and member of the LDS Church. Now, according to some friends, apparently Jared wasn't really interested in Shanna at first, but that didn't stop her from pursuing him. Instead, she wined and dined him rather than the reverse and being courted by the guy in an attempt to flaunt her family's wealth in hopes that this would make him attracted to her. Specifically, one friend says, it was like she was saying, look at what my lifestyle is like. I can fly you all over. My parents can pay for everything. And it ended up working. Jared and Shanna fell in love and got married at a temple in Salt Lake City in 2010. After they got married, Shanna's parents bought them an $800,000 house nearby, and allegedly both Shanna and Jared both drove a Mercedes even though neither of them had a job. Instead, Shanna's parents gave the couple at least $8,500 a month, in addition to access to the parents' credit cards, which is a nice, cush little allowance as an adult. $8,500 a month for just living and breathing. That's pretty incredible. And to top it off, Shanna's parents also gave Jared $100,000 to start a business. I mean, that's what I call the American dream. Now, look, it's not lost on me. I get that a lot of wealthy parents financially support their adult children, but it's just always so surprising to hear the details when you do. It really is. Anyways, about a year into the marriage, Shanna became pregnant with the twins, a boy and a girl. When their twins were born, their daughter was extremely healthy, but their son was born with a serious congenital heart condition. Doctors told Jared and Shanna that their new baby boy needed to live at sea level for his heart to function properly. So they did what any parent would do in that situation, and they moved to Connecticut because it was close to Jared's brother and his wife, which was also close to their son's doctor in New York. Now, even though Shanna and Jared had only been married for around 2 years at this point, after the move to Connecticut, their marriage took a major turn for the worst. Shanna stopped going to church and started a very intense workout schedule and routine. Shanna was also frustrated that Jared was gaining weight and was focused on trying to start his business. Now, I guess that's the kind of thing that would be upsetting if you are a trust fund baby, but probably nobody else on the planet would be upset that their spouse was working on starting a new business, just saying, but she was. And Jared could feel the frustration in their marriage creeping up more and more. So he convinced Shanna to move to Jacksonville, his hometown, where they could have a fresh start. Shanna agreed, and soon after, the family of 4 moved. Shanna's parents bought them another $800,000 house in Point Vedra Beach. Jared continued to be a devout LDS member, but not so much for Shanna. Despite growing up LDS, Shanna was apparently over it. For Christmas in 2014, Jared bought Shanna a set of personal training sessions because she was so into fitness. So Shanna started her personal training sessions soon after the holiday, and it wasn't long before Shanna started to have a relationship with her personal trainer. And it didn't take long before Shanna allegedly started to have a relationship with her personal trainer, which, let me just say, that is like the biggest cliche of all. Soon after, Jared found some pretty sexual emails, apparently, between Shanna and the trainer and confronted her about them. Shanna denied that there was an affair or anything going on and instead just told Jared that she didn't love him anymore. However, that didn't push Jared away. Since they had 2 young children together, Jared told Shanna that he wanted to still fight for their marriage and get back to a place of loving each other, at least for the kids' sake. But Shanna said no, and she filed for divorce on February 23, 2015. In the court filings, she said that their marriage was irretrievably broken and that they didn't love each other anymore. After she filed for divorce, they were still living together at their house in Point Vedra and continued to do so for a while before Shanna demanded that she be granted the house, that she be granted primary custody of the kids, and she accused Jared of threatening to withdraw cash from their kids' trust funds. Jared said that wasn't true at all and actually countered that he wanted primary custody, that he wanted alimony, child support, and the house, saying that Shanna had the resources to live somewhere else and he didn't. He also accused her, and I'm quoting this, spying on him by hiding baby monitors in the children's bedroom and attaching a tracking device to his car. Jared wrote a lengthy email to his lawyers with pictures of the monitors that he found and told his lawyer, saying, I want the flipping gates of, you know what, released on her for this. Despite all of this, Shanna wasn't giving up, so she took it upon herself to install a lock on the master bedroom so Jared couldn't get in, and she allegedly placed a voice-activated recorder in the house. On top of all of this, Jared told his lawyer that Shanna was lying about all of her finances when she claimed that she had no income, and that she actually earned thousands of dollars working under the table for her mom. Now, we have no idea what's true or not in any of this, but this is in all of their court records. I have to say, it's giving me a lot of vibes into that case that I covered not long ago about that wife, Jen Eyre, who sewed the tracking devices in the lapel of her husband's suit jacket, who was tracking the emails, doing all of this stuff. The tracking piece of it definitely reminds me of that case, which if you haven't checked it out yet, it's a wild one. It's probably, 10 or 15 videos back. Check it out. It's wild. And I think the title or the thumbnail says, "You made me do this." That's the one. It's a roller coaster. So everything during their divorce was very, very nasty, always escalating, and just kind of the divorce that you hear horror stories about. The one thing that they did come to an agreement on, though, was custody, a shared parenting agreement of 50-50, and they agreed to this in July of 2015. But that never stopped the fighting. They continued to drag each other back to court for 6 years. As the years passed, Shanna's filings grew more hostile and her accusations more extreme. In 2019, she accused Jared of coaching and interrogating the minor children and recording their statements and threatening to use these coached recorded statements against her, calling this conduct abusive and outrageous and demanding a social investigation. In June of 2021, Shanna filed another motion for not letting her borrow a breathing machine for their son, since that specific machine was better in high altitudes and she was going to visit her family in Utah. The court filing said, the father apparently considers his vindictiveness towards the mother more important than protecting his son's health and life. Jared is more concerned with humiliating the mother than he is making sure his own child does not die. Okay, so going back to the months after Jared's death, when Shanna was in the line of fire and public speculation, two people came out of the woodworks to talk to the media. One person, who remained anonymous, worked at a Florida tattoo parlor. He told media outlets that when he heard about Jared's murder and Shanna's name being brought up, he realized he knew her and had become somewhat of friends or acquaintances with her years back after the divorce. Apparently, Shanna went to the tattoo shop to get a piercing on her, downstairs. And when the employee went back to look at the date that she came in to get that piercing, he realized that the date she came in was the day after she filed for divorce. Now look, I'm not trying to shame anybody, guys. And although a piercing downstairs is somewhat of a common request at that tattoo shop, the employee said that they were stunned that she had gotten the procedure on day one, when she came in just looking like any other regular mother. Now again, that's not shaming anybody who has piercings anywhere in your body. Trust me, look at my arm. I'm not the first one to judge anybody, obviously. But does it seem weird to get it the day after you file for a divorce? Maybe, or maybe it's liberating. Maybe it's kind of saying, I'm owning myself again, including all of my body parts. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. But just in conversation, the employee said that he used to live in Utah and had Mormon roommates, and that because Shanna had lived in Utah as well, they formed a friendly bond over that. But apparently Shanna kept coming back to this tattoo shop just to hang out and vent about her soon-to-be ex-husband, and then one day casually brought up that he was trying to take all of her money. During the course of the next few weeks, when Shanna came to the tattoo shop to visit, the employee said she went from this goody two-shoes girl to this wild lady. The employee also told the media about a dinner one night where he met up with Shanna and a few friends at the Flying Iguana. According to the employee/friend, she had been talking to us about her divorce, and she told us that her life could just be better if he could just shut up, and asked if we knew anybody that could shut him up. I did not take it at the time as anything nefarious. In hindsight, I can see how that can be taken differently now. A few weeks later, yet another person came forward. And this time, it was Shanna's former personal trainer who confirmed their affair, despite Shanna always denying it, which she actually still denies it to this day, and we're going to get to that more in a second, but it's also why I'm dropping allegedly, because that family's got money, she's got money, I'm not trying to get sued here, guys. But the personal trainer said that Shanna told him that she and Jared had been separated for months whenever their secret affair started. But apparently that was a lie. Remember, Jared bought the personal training sessions as a Christmas gift for Shanna. And then in February, Jared confronted Shanna about the sexual text messages, and she filed for divorce on February 23rd. We also know that they were never separated at all until the divorce was filed. And even then, according to court documents, they were still living under the same roof for a while after the filing. So it was now June, almost 4 months after the murder. The police were at a standstill, with no leads, and the accusations and scrutiny of Shanna's involvement weren't going away, not at all. It was actually getting a lot worse, with this tattoo shop worker and now ex-lover speaking out. Shanna decided to hire a prominent Jacksonville criminal defense attorney, Hank Cox, to help protect her family from the publicity, the implications that she was involved in the shooting, and because some media outlets were taking pictures of her and her kids whenever they were out in public. She said that the intense media coverage had become very loud, and it made her children feel unsafe.
As her innocence has come into question, Shanna Gardner spoke to me in the only TV interview she says she'll be doing to tell her side of the story.
I do want people to understand, where I'm coming from.
Almost 5 months after Jared Bridegan was murdered in the street in front of his 2-year-old daughter, we spoke with his ex-wife, who has not commented publicly so far. Our first question: why have you stayed silent?
I was asked to not talk to the media or give a public statement, but with the level of speculation, I felt that now it was necessary to speak out.
Shanna Gardner revealed she was asked by Jared Bridegan's widow, Kirsten, not to speak publicly, but we wanted to know how the relationship could have gotten to that point.
I'm sure you would say that we've had happy moments. I mean, we share the 2 most beautiful children in the world.
In 2015, Jared and Shanna divorced. Their court records, which we obtained from the St. Johns County court system, revealed a long, complicated process lasting over 5 years.
Anytime divorce comes into any situation, it's messy. It just is. I will say that I think that we both love our kids.
Jared and Shanna both wanted full custody. The court file details allegations of spying, deceit, and more. In the end, Shanna and Jared reached an agreement. They shared custody, and whenever the children were at one parent's house, the other would come over Wednesday and have a date night. That's exactly what Jared and his twins did the night he was killed.
It was actually one of the things. I'm sorry. I remember my son tucking him in and him saying that it was a good date night.
But that happiness would end just minutes after leaving Shanna's house just over 2 miles from her home. In a quiet neighborhood with few security cameras, a tire was rolled out into the street. Jared got out of his car to move it and was shot dead. His 2-year-old daughter sat in the car, strapped into her car seat alone for 3 minutes before someone came to help.
I was shocked. I fell to the floor because I was devastated for what I was going to have to tell my kids.
Jared died in that street, leaving behind 4 children and a heartbroken family.
They were, I think, in shock.
Later, in a blog post, Shanna's mother said she was not invited to the funeral. I asked Shanna about the situation.
His family did not invite me or want me there.
But the day before a vigil hosted by Jared's widow at Celebration Park, Shanna was photographed at the park with her kids by the tabloid Daily Mail.
Talk about a violation of privacy, because my kids know that they were photographed and they were worried.
The tabloid presented the facts in a way that leave room for speculation about Shanna having a role in Jared's death, citing their rocky divorce papers and her absence from the funeral.
Even though we didn't always get along, he was still the father of my kids.
So I asked Shanna the question.
Did you have anything to do with Jared's murder?
No, I did not have anything to do with his murder.
Shanna says she has no idea if the murder was targeted or what Jared was involved in, saying they ran in different circles. But Action News Jax reported in June, Shanna had hired criminal defense attorney Hank Cox.
He was referred to me by several friends, and ultimately my kids' images and videos were being used in the media without consent.
Shanna said Cox was hired to protect her kids. I asked her if she thinks she will face criminal charges. She says no, that she's cooperated with detectives.
Do you have any idea who might have done this?
I do not have any idea. As I said, we've been divorced. We don't run in the same social circles. All I know is that I would never want anybody to go through this.
She told me if she could speak to Jared again, she'd say one thing.
Honestly, that I wish it weren't like this. I wish things could have been and could be different.
And Shanna told me despite this happening in her neighborhood, despite many people around her discussing the case, she has no intention of leaving Jax Beach or Jacksonville.
Now let me know in the comments below if you found her to be genuine or not, and if you believed her. I'm really curious to hear all of your opinions. Shanna also decided to give an interview for an article with the Florida Times-Union in another attempt to set the record straight. In that interview, she denied the reports of an affair and chose not to comment about the details of her divorce that were wildly circulating. Because if you remember, all of this was in public court documents. Shanna said, "I don't see any good in airing our dirty laundry. Our relationship was pretty complicated and remained pretty complicated." Shanna also insisted that she had nothing to do with the execution of her ex-husband. Shanna also addressed the "shut him up" comment that was relayed from the tattoo employee, saying, "People say such things during bitter divorces, and now that my friends and family are being harassed, it is becoming necessary to respond. I want people to know where I'm coming from, my side of the story." Shanna also said that her now husband Mario was a huge supporter for her and the kids through all of this. So who's Mario Fernandez? Well, he and Shanna got married in 2018. Mario manages rental properties in the area, and some people were also suspicious of Mario because of an incident that he had with a neighbor. According to a police report, the neighbor felt he was intimidating her because she feeds stray cats that he didn't like. She said he intentionally walked his pit bull right up to where she was feeding them. Then the neighbor called the police. Mario said he was just walking his dog and that it was nothing malicious, but at the time when this information came out about the incident, it was also revealed that this wasn't the first time somebody had claimed Mario made threats over cats, but the details of the other incidents are a bit unclear. Almost a year since Jared's sudden and senseless murder, Shanna pulled both twins out of their private school and moved across the country to Washington, seemingly out of nowhere. Now let's go back to this for a second.
Honestly, that I wish it weren't like this. I wish things could have been and could be different.
And Shanna told me despite this happening in her neighborhood, despite many people around her discussing the case, she has no intention of leaving Jax Beach or Jacksonville.
Records showed that Shanna's parents bought her that house in September for $1 million through an LLC. Now, interestingly though, Mario, her husband, didn't make the move with Shanna and the kids. We aren't sure if they are still together or not, or what is going on there. Property records show that Shanna and Mario still own their home in Jacksonville Beach, despite it briefly being for sale and then taken off the market. We have no idea why Shanna decided to move, why it occurred during the middle of the school year, or what exactly was going on. But it seemed like it was a move literally out of nowhere. But coincidentally, just a few weeks after Shanna moved, the police announced that they were going to be having a very big press conference for Jared Bridegan. This whole time, police had been silent for literally 11 months, so this was a huge shock to the public.
The News for Jax I-Team got a major update in a Jacksonville Beach murder mystery. Police have arrested a man they say was involved in the ambush of a father of four last February. 33-year-old Jared Bridegan was shot and killed as his 2-year-old daughter was in his SUV. Nearly a year after Bridegan's murder, police announced 61-year-old Henry Tennant is now charged with murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and child abuse. Investigators call the attack on Bridegan targeted. News for Jack's I-Team's Vic Michelucci has been on this case since the night it happened and joins us live with a concerning connection, Vic, between the suspect and someone in Bridegan's past.
And since very early on, detectives have told me this is not a random murder. This case has gotten national attention, and today people are asking, what is the connection with the man arrested by Jacksonville Beach Police and Jared Bridegan? We did some digging and found some disturbing details linking him to Jared Bridegan's ex-wife's new husband. Nearly a year after the mysterious shooting of Jared Bridegan, investigators have arrested a suspect.
He was gunned down in cold blood. Nothing was stolen from him. His 2-year-old daughter remained strapped in the car seat in the back. This was a planned and targeted ambush and murder.
As Bridegan's widow and siblings stood by, Jacksonville Beach Police Chief Gene Paul Smith and State Attorney Melissa Nelson revealing murder and other charges against 61-year-old Henry Tenon. He'd been in custody on unrelated charges since an August arrest in Jacksonville. Prosecutors not releasing many details, but telling us they know Tenon did not act alone.
In order to protect the integrity of this ongoing and active investigation, the state has obtained a court order sealing Tenon's arrest warrant and affidavit for the next 30 days.
Questions about Jared Bridegan's ex-wife, Shauna Gardner Fernandez, and her new husband, Mario Fernandez, continue. Bridegan had just dropped off his older 2 children at their house when he was shot on a dark stretch of Sanctuary Boulevard, stopping to remove a tire likely planted in the road. Right now, we're in northwest Jacksonville, about 25 miles away from the scene of the shooting in Jacksonville Beach. However, this home behind me is critical for the investigation. We at the News for Jack's I-Team uncovered records showing that Henry Tenon used to live here, and the former owner was Mario Fernandez. That's right. The I-Team uncovered property records linking the two together, making Fernandez the landlord and Tenon the renter at the time of the murder. Neither has been charged or named as a suspect, but the I-Team has confirmed Shauna moved to Washington State with her kids. Sources believe Fernandez is still in Florida. Their attorney has not returned a call for comment today. This blue Ford F-150 pickup truck was a big part of the investigation. Police continually asking for information about it. Detectives thankful for the hundreds of tips that they've already received.
Thank you again to everyone who stepped up. It was very helpful. We hope to have more answers to provide to you, even if not, it cannot be today.
And investigators are making it very clear tonight. This case is not closed. It is not solved. They still need the public to come forward with information about the people involved in Jared Bridegan's murder. I did check with First Coast Crime Stoppers. They do still have $50,000 on the table for reward for anyone with information leading to an arrest. There's an additional $5,000 from the ATF for information leading to an arrest and conviction. We're live in Jacksonville Beach. I'm Vic Michelucci, Channel 4, the local station.
Vic, you visited the home that Fernandez owned where Tenon lived. What did you find there?
We learned a lot, and when I knocked on the door, someone came out. He was Tenon's roommate, said that he knew that his roommate had been in jail. He didn't know the circumstances, but he said that the home had been raided by police and ATF federal agents. Then I asked that man what vehicle Tenon used to drive. He said he had 2 cars, one of them a dark blue Ford F-150. If you remember, that matches the description of that vehicle that police put out.
Jail records show that Henry Tenon was already in jail awaiting trial for August 18th for charges of possession of a weapon by a felon and driving with a suspended or revoked license on a third or subsequent conviction. The arrest report stated that he had a shotgun in the trunk during a traffic stop. So in this press conference announcing the arrest, State Attorney Melissa Nelson and Jacksonville Beach Police Chief Gene Paul Smith offered any hint as to a motive or who else might be involved.
It's been nearly a year since Microsoft executive Jared Bridegan was gunned down in front of his 2-year-old daughter. Police say he was ambushed on a dark road in Jacksonville, Florida. Authorities finally made an arrest in the case earlier this week. 61-year-old Henry Teenan faces 4 felony charges, including second-degree murder. But police say they do not believe he acted alone. Jared's relatives join me now, his widow, Kirsten, and his brother, Adam. We've been following this story, and we thank you for coming on the show today. This is not an easy thing for you to talk about, but it's important for us to understand what you've been going through. Kirsten, when you got the news yesterday that there was an arrest of Henry Teenan, but it's not finished, do you believe that there will be more to come soon? What's a timeline that they've given you?
They haven't given us a timeline, but they've promised that they are working incredibly hard and that they are committed to bringing more answers to our family.
Adam, I know that obviously you care about the children very much, your niece and nephew. And also there are other children involved from the first marriage, right? So we have the ex-wife. We know there was some estrangement there, some difficulties. What's it been like to not be able to see those twins that were from the first marriage?
I think for us as a family, it has been devastating. As soon as we heard of the news of Jared's passing and how he was passed when he was ambushed and murdered, it broke our heart. And not being able to be together as a family really rips us apart. It's truly gut-wrenching. And just hearing the news recently of this week of the arrest has been really bittersweet for us, right? We feel a sense of hope and peace that there is answers coming, but we also know that there's a long road ahead, and there's a long road ahead for all of us as a family and for Jared's 4 children that we absolutely love and want them to have answers as well.
So now that the arrest warrant is sealed for 30 days, a lot of people are thinking there could be another arrest before it's unsealed. Specifically, a lot of people are thinking it could be Shanna or Mario. Is it possible that maybe the connection is a coincidence? I don't know. And how did police finally figure out that Henry was involved, especially because he's been in jail since August? Now, I'm just speculating, but do you think that it's possible that given his criminal record and upcoming trial, he may have been looking at a significant amount of prison time and wanted to make a deal with prosecutors? Maybe give them some information in an exchange for a less harsh sentence. Sometimes people in custody lie or make things up, and it's possible that since he was Mario's tenant at one point and Jared's murder got a ton of local publicity, that he knew about the murder and wanted to make something up. But if he had the same truck that was in that surveillance video, I mean, that's too crazy of a coincidence for it to be made up, and seems like maybe they have their guy. I also wonder if it's possible that Henry thought Jared was Mario, since he was coming from Mario's house. But wouldn't he see that it wasn't Mario when he got out of the car? You'd think he would have met Mario in person before, right? Or what if they had never met in person and only had a connection over the phone and through email, and it really was just a case of mistaken identity, and Henry wasn't actually after Mario? I don't know. The other thing to consider is if Henry wanted to make a deal with prosecutors, which we don't know that at all, but if he did, why would he confess to a crime that's worse than the one he is charged with? Because of his conspiracy charges, it makes me think that Henry may not have been the one to actually kill Jared, but maybe along for the ride, or knew about it, and thought by spilling the beans on whoever actually did it, that would help him, and didn't maybe realize how badly it would implicate himself in that process. Now again, this is just a little speculation.
Jared's widow, Kirsten, says she's thankful for a break in the case, but she has more questions.
Who was this person? How did you find this person? What's the connection? I want to know everything. I want to know everything about him. I want to know everything about how we got here. And we just have to be patient and wait.
State Attorney Melissa Nelson says the conspiracy to commit murder charge is related to the fact that this was a planned crime and Jared was targeted.
It's very chilling because we don't know how large that conspiracy is.
Both Adam, Jared's brother, and Kirsten told Dateline in an interview that they don't know of any connection between Henry and Jared. They said, "He lives in a part of town that we never frequented. I know for a fact Jared did not know this man, and this man did not know Jared. Who is this individual? No idea who he is. We're all just really concerned about how many people were truly involved in this." Jared's twins he shares with Shanna don't get to see Jared's family or their sisters often at all, and now they probably never will since they've moved. Kirsten recently spoke out on News Nation more in depth about the situation, with the arrest, seeing the twins, and where everything stands for her right now.
Kirsten Bridegan is with me. This is so distressing, and I am so sorry for your loss. It was even more distressing to hear that the man who was arrested seems to have a connection through an address to Jared's ex-wife's husband. Can you explain what this potential connection is?
I mean, you know what I know. Henry Tenen was a renter of a property owned by Mario Fernandez, who was married to Jared's ex-wife, Shanna Gardner Fernandez. I don't think that's random. It's a 1,000,001 shot that was a random connection. You know, what are the chances of that?
Has Jared's ex-wife, Shanna, said anything about this, especially since it's been revealed that Shanna's husband has a property that was being rented by this alleged killer?
No, Shanna and I have not spoken since very soon after Jared's murder. The only communication is regular emails from me to her requesting to see the kids, which either go denied or completely ignored. So I have not heard anything from her about this.
How is your 2-year-old daughter doing? I mean, she's 3 now, and her little sister's 1. But at 2 years old, I'm guessing she may have some memory of that terrible afternoon?
She does. Early on, she talked a lot about the sounds that she heard, and I'm sure everyone has heard the Ring doorbell sounds of those gunshots. She was there. She heard it. Her dad wasn't answering her. She remembers grabbing her shoes and putting them over her ears. Thankfully, as time goes on, she doesn't speak about that as much. Now it shifts to dad's in heaven, dad's not coming home, but he's okay. So I'm glad that it's shifting, but she definitely still remembers that night.
How long was she in the car before somebody discovered the scene and rescued her?
It's estimated to be over 3 minutes that she was alone between when the gunshots were caught on that camera to when a bystander pulled her from the vehicle.
One of the other sad details is that those twins that Jared shared with his ex-wife Shanna and was dropping off that day, that was the last time that you and your 2 kids got to see them. I mean, they're all siblings. They've all 4 lost their dad. And Shanna is not allowing any contact between your 2 children and their other siblings, the 10-year-old twins?
So she allowed me to be present when they were informed of Jared's murder. I had asked her, said, Jared and the kids deserve that I be there, someone who loved their dad. And thankfully she said yes. And then the next day she allowed Abby to bring over some gifts for her sister. But since then, she did not allow them to come to his funeral. She did not allow us to get together, despite many, many requests from myself. And she cut off even FaceTimes as of April.
And now she's moved as far away from Florida as you can get. She's crisscrossed the country all the way to Washington. So is it getting even more dire in terms of trying to reunite these siblings?
Yeah, like I had hoped that if I was persistent, she would come around and realize that she's further abusing and damaging these children by not allowing them to be together, to mourn together, to support each other. But it's fallen on deaf ears, and now there's not even a chance of meeting at a park and letting them play because they live clear across the country.
As far as Shanna having any alleged involvement, we all know how nasty the media can be, whether something is true or not. And for right now, we don't know either way. Going through a nasty divorce, being vindictive, and lying about an affair doesn't necessarily make somebody a murderer. I mean, it's definitely not good, but you guys get what I mean. Online and locally, there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of people who think Shanna is going down for this.
Hey there, Mario. We just want to ask you a couple questions about Jared Bridegan. Did you have anything to do with his murder? Did you pay Henry?
Is it possible that Mario did something without her knowing? Did Mario take something that she said off the cuff in a serious way and Mario acted on it? Like something she said years prior about, do you know anybody who can just shut him up? That kind of seems more likely to me. Again, I'm just speculating here. This is all alleged, and it's just my thoughts and opinions, and I could totally be wrong, but I want to know what you guys think. So let me know in the comments below. Luckily, in this case, it seems like we won't have to wait long before we either see an arrest or the arrest warrant is unsealed. And hopefully that will bring closure for Jared's family, his children, and justice for Jared.
The widow of a Microsoft executive assassinated in a suspected murder-for-hire plot says she's living in fear.
Until everyone involved is behind bars, you don't know what they're capable of doing. Obviously, they're capable of murdering my husband.
I saw this post on Kirsten's Facebook, and I wanted to play this for you guys because I absolutely love it. Children are witnesses to unthinkable crimes, and I hope that Bexley is able to recover from this. I have read that she was in some therapy initially, but I'm not sure if she still is. This case is just so sad, and I literally can't even imagine being Kirsten, and I hope and pray that all of Jared's children and loved ones find peace and comfort one day, because I'm sure that they were scared and devastated for a very long time and still are. I will definitely keep you guys updated on this case as more unfolds, because now that I've heard this story, I have to know what happens next. Again, I don't want to say anybody's guilty, but something is pulling at me that Shanna or Mario might be involved in this somehow. Things feel a little too close to comfort with this Henry guy, but what do you guys think? Also, if you've been following this case closely, because I know so many people are talking about it, if there's any details I missed or any other information that you have heard that I didn't mention in this video, let us know in the comment section below so we can all keep the dialogue going in the comment section before the next video. If you want to make sure that you don't miss the next video where we update on this case once that arrest warrant is unsealed, make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't done so yet. It's totally free to do. And as always, you guys know it's way faster for me to put updates on these cases on my Instagram if I can't jump over to YouTube. So make sure you're following along there if you're not already. It's @_Annie Elise. Okay, guys, thanks so much for tuning in today. Please don't forget to give this video a like, a little thumbs up on your way out to show support for the channel. And until the next case. All right, guys, thanks again. Stay safe.